Hi again, everyone. This is Ed the Finance Guy. Thanks for tuning in. I wanted to talk today about business expenses. I've been an accountant for 40 years. Very often I get questions, I more or less get questions all day long from people asking me, can I deduct this on my business? Can I deduct that on my business? 10 minutes ago, I had a client calling me up wanting to know if he could buy a piece of property and write it off on his expenses. Now, business expenses are business expenses. That's why you have a separate checking account for your business. You have a separate checking account for personal. You don't want to intermingle the two. So if you're going to have an expense and you need it specifically to run your business, to help you conduct additional business, then it's a business expense. So if you're going to advertise the fact that you have 10% off on all your inventory this month, that is a business expense. If you're going to buy a car or you're going to use your car, as long as you're using it for business, it's a good business expense. If you're going to and from work, you can't write off the car. The car is something that you would write off if you need it for deliveries or you need it to go see clients. You can't just take your car, drive to work, and drive back and think you could write off $1,000 a month car expense. So very often people that are salespeople, they can write off their car, but they keep track of their mileage. They have an appointment book. They write down what their mileage is at the beginning of the day, what it was at the end of the day. But again, for that salesperson to drive from work to the office is not deductible. But when they leave the office to see clients back and forth, those miles are deductible. And the records have to be kept very, very clear and straightforward. As far as other business expenses, you can't deduct your home phone unless you have a business at home, unless you have an office at home. If you happen to have an office in the house, you could write off expenses. You can write off a percentage of your expenses in the house. So if your office is 200 square feet and your house is 2,000 square feet, you could write off 10% of all expenses that you have in the house, which could be landscaping expense, the roof caved in, cable, TV that you're using, electric, heat, things like that, air conditioning, oil. You could write off the percentage of whatever space you have in the house that's geared specifically for your office against what the total expenses are of the whole house. Now, you can't say, I have a desk in my bedroom and I want to write off that room. You can't do that. It has to be exclusively used for business. Now, this year, many people are working out of their house, so many people are going to have this expense. So it's very important to keep good records. How big is your office? How big is your house? Are you using the whole basement? The basement's 400 square feet. The house is 2,000 square feet. 20% of all your expenses can be deductible. So there's certain things you can write off. Again, it has to be geared towards your business. So people may turn around and take their gas card, that's a business card, and use it in their wife's car. Can't do that. If you get audited, you'll have a problem. If they audit you, they're going to look at your statement and they're going to see how many times you're filling up gas. Want to know why you're filling up gas 3 times a week when you don't even use your car much for business. You only went 120 miles this week for business. Why would you fill up your tank 3 times and think you could write that off? So it's always better to keep track of the mileage in the car, specific for the business, and then write off whatever it is per mile. Now, on the personal side, it's hard to write these things off now because of the way the itemized scheduling is done. They give you a number, what your standard deduction is, and you're not able to write off more than that amount unless you have big medical bills and mortgage interest, things like that. So try to write that off on your business. So if you have mileage, write it off on your business expense side. So very often you'll hear my clients will buy supplies or they'll go to dinner and they'll take 3 of their friends out to dinner. It's not a business expense. You're using your business card, but it's not a business expense. It's like you're taking money out of the company for yourself and you have to be taxed on that. So if you want to take someone out for business, you have to have them sign the check at the end of the meal. And you have to put that in your appointment book. And in the appointment book, you have to put down who you took for dinner and what did you talk about business-wise. Did you talk about the Yankees or did you talk about increasing business level? So you have to make sure that this discussion with that person has to do specifically with business. Or you take a flight to Florida because you're meeting a client, you want to talk to the client about different products that you're selling. Yeah, you could write off your airline ticket, you could write off your room, you could write off food, you could write off your rental car. But now you're going to decide, I'm going to Florida anyway. Let me take my wife and my daughter, and I want to write the whole thing off. You can't do that. You can only write off your share of the expenses. So you buy 3 tickets. The fact that you put it on your business credit card, which a lot of people think it's on my business credit card, I'm paying it out of the business, it's deductible. It's not. So if you're taking your family with you, you can't only deduct your plane ticket, you can only deduct your share of the hotel room, your share of the food, and you have to log it in your appointment book, which is very, very important for an audit. That appointment book will save you a lot of money in an audit because everything on there is itemized, the day is itemized, and the IRS will look at the book and pick a day out of the blue. Oh, you went to Florida on this date? Let me see the airline ticket. Let me check the airline ticket. Or you took this client out to dinner? Let me see this receipt. I'm going to flip the book June 30th. I want to know, why did you go to dinner with this client? What did you talk about? Well, here's the receipt. He signed it. We spoke about so-and-so. And then once you show the IRS that you have records like that, they won't bother you because they see that you're keeping records. And all of these things are completely deductible if you do it the right way. So remember, all the expenses you have to pertain specifically to your business. If you happen to have a storage facility, but you have your own personal items in there, it's not a business expense. So everything that you're writing off, you have to remember is a business expense if you're using it for the business. So the car is a good business expense, the house is a good business expense, your rent obviously is a business expense, insurance. So if you have insurance on the property, you could write that off. If you have health insurance, you could write off part of it as an employee benefit. You work for yourself, you have your own corporation, you're paying health insurance. The part that's your health insurance is deductible. You could write that off as an employee business expense. There's actually a separate line on the corporate return that says employee benefits, and that's where it would go on the return. So it's very, very important to know when you have a business what you can and can't write off. And you have to be very, very careful. A lot of people try to, avoid the laws, do things incorrectly, which you really shouldn't do. It doesn't pay. You're going to save a couple $1,000s, but if you get caught and you do something wrong, they could audit you for 3 years. They could look at your return and they're never going to believe anything you say. Any item you put on the return, they're going to assume is fraud because they've caught you in a lie already. If you put down you have the extra child when you don't, the auditor is going to look at you like you're a thief and they're going to not believe anything you put down. Very often you put down something and you don't have the expense. You put down a $4,500 expense for something, but you don't have the receipt. And the IRS will ask you for the receipt. I don't have it. I had a problem in the house. The IRS agent will be nice and say, okay, we'll allow half of it. We'll allow a percentage of it. Remember, they're there to bring money into the IRS. So they're trying to see how they can bring money in, but they're not going to do things that are going to just upset you and they're going to make up stories. And they're not there to hurt you. They're there to find out the truth. So if you file a legitimate return and you have all the expenses, you don't have to worry about an audit. You just go in with all your records and that's it. It's not that big of a deal going to an audit. People that are afraid of an audit are the people that are taking off business expenses that are really personal. They'll buy extra supplies at Staples, for example, Office Max, and they'll take those supplies home and some they'll bring to the office. They'll figure, oh, they're never going to catch me. It's too small to play around with the IRS. The numbers aren't worth it. And you want to make sure you don't have a problem with the IRS. You don't want to be on their list of people that they audit every couple of years. Because if they find a big difference in your return, they could wait 3 years more and audit you again. And then you have to come up with expenses and proof for the last 3 years. It's very upsetting. You have to pay an accountant thousands of dollars sometimes. And who wants to go through that? You just try to do it the right way. That's the right way to do things. That's the way I want to do it. I don't want to deduct an expense that's not a business expense and take a shot and hope I get away with it. So again, very important to do things the right way, not get in trouble, and you'll live a much easier and better life, and your karma around you will be much better. So again, I appreciate everyone listening, and I really do like doing these videos. I've gotten a lot of good feedback from clients and new people that email me, and I'm hoping people like, subscribe, keep listening to the videos. I want to keep doing these videos. I want to keep helping people. Just remember, be safe, be smart, keep tuning in, keep listening. Ed the Finance Guy. Have a great day.